if you grow up here, you're more likely to wind up selling your bodies on the streets. Or shooting dope from dirty needles in a bus stop. And if you're successful, you'll make money selling junk to crackheads. And you won't think twice about killing someone's wife. Because you won't even know what was wrong in the first place.
Hobo with a shotgun.
Yes.
Wait,
that's how you say it.
That's how you. No. You gotta let us all have a chance at it.
Yeah, try it. Go ahead. Get it out your system.
I'll do one of the softer ones. Hobo with a shotgun.
Hobo with a shotgun.
All right, and I'll do mine.
Don't do Shatner.
Here we are.
Shotgun.
Get ready for Hobo with a shotgun.
Out of all of us, you sound the most homeless. Which,
I think
this title makes me nervous because we're going to get every other homeless person out there ideas. Now we're going to start getting carjacked instead of asking for money. They'll come over to our windows with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Give me $1, man.
I don't think we have to worry though, because I don't think you can find a shotgun at the pawn shop for like $50. I think so, yeah. Only in the movie world, or in Canada.
That's how you can tell. Like, okay, this is science fiction.
Yeah.
Well, we keep giving them dollars.
We do. Yeah.
It's a good reason to not get the homeless money. They're going to start buying shotguns with them.
Ooh. They should just start. They always have the signs and they try and be funny. It's like saving up for shotgun. That guy's.
They should. That would be awesome.
Yeah, you think he's playing?
He's gonna come. But you know what? The truth is, at least here, he's not like some bad hobo with a shotgun. He's a hero hobo with a shotgun.
He's a vigilante.
He's a hobo with a heart.
He's a hobo with a couple different hearts.
The Batman of homeless people, man. But you know, this is directed by. Now, I don't know how many people have seen this. Co-host was the one that turned me on to this. I think it was you, but there was a short online called Treevenge.
Treevenge, yeah.
And it was crazy. I mean, up to the point where it's about Christmas trees who revolt. They rebel against people who chop them down and decorate them in silly lights and stars and glitter.
And they completely massacre a neighborhood.
They even kill an infant, and it's like,
and
it's like, wow, this is a short that wasn't afraid to go balls out. With whatever.
Yeah, there was no line. It crossed all of them, and it's crazy.
All right, just take everything we said and imagine that put into like a full feature-length film, and that's what you have for Hobo with a Shotgun. It's a story about a hobo just minding his own business, traveling from town to town.
By Rutger Hauer.
Rutger Hauer. Yeah, and you know, hobos are different from homeless people because homeless people just walk from place to place and live under bridges. Hobos still use trains.
Yes, they're traveling.
They got the sack on a stick.
Yeah, poking out knapsack on a stick.
Singing songs with Pee Wee.
Yeah. If you're lucky, you might find the one with the top hat with the lid that flips open at the top.
That's right.
But,
and a harmonica.
And a harmonica.
Don't forget the sardines.
No,
two pointers.
But he gets into this town where it has a nice name. Do you remember the name of this town at all?
What was it?
Well, they keep calling it Fucktown.
Fucktown. Yeah.
Well, let's just leave it at that because that's what it was. The moment he gets into town, I mean, people are being beat down, robbed, and then he sees like these guys put a guy in the middle of the street in a manhole with only his head sticking out. Somebody gets into a car, rips his head off, and then this girl comes and starts bathing in the blood that's spreading from the neck. And he looks at this and is like, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen. I think I'll stay.
That was one thing that got me was like after traveling there, like we see that he has some mobility. After seeing that, he just like, damn, I'm going to hate living here. I'm like, why don't you just leave?
I know.
Train right there.
What's keeping you? Well, I got a lease on my shopping.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, who's the mayor of this town? Pinhead? What's going on here? It's like these daily events.
Well, the town is apparently being terrorized by 3 people, and they don't really look that badass.
No.
It's an old man and his 2 preppy sons, and who are not even like that threatening looking, but apparently to this town they hold the power.
Yeah.
Well, they got the cops paid off.
Yeah, they got all the cops paid off and everything, so they get to run rampant and do whatever they want to. Well, you know, after looking at all the stuff that's going on, this hobo says, you know what, I'm going to just mind my own business, try to save up enough money to buy a lawnmower so I can start my own business, and then I'll get the hell out. But they just fuck with him a little bit too much where he says, fuck it, I'm not going to buy that lawnmower. I'm going to buy a shotgun.
Well, he defends a hooker. he's caught in the middle of a thing where he's like, no, man, you're going to fuck up a woman. That's just going too far. I will not put up with that. Because
this shall not stand.
Crazy guy or not, and make no mistake, he is a crazy guy.
Yeah.
That shit won't stand. And that's where he makes his big mistake, because then they really fuck him up. Yeah. And, I mean, from there on, what are you going to do but go buy a shotgun and start wreaking vengeance?
Well, the funniest part is that this hooker who he comes to encounter, he actually convinces himself, because she actually is kind of smart. He convinces himself that she's actually like a school teacher, which really makes him like fight for her.
Because like I said, he is crazy.
Yeah,
and that's one of the elements I really liked here, is that they're not presenting him like, oh, this guy is just hard on his luck. No, he's one of those guys who's talking to himself and shit. He's fucked up.
It's funny because you just hearing it spelled out like that, it sounds like Marvin from Sin City and that whole story. Like, it could have been a Sin City story.
I used to be like you a long time ago. You're all brand new and perfect. No mistakes, no regrets. People look at you and think of how wonderful your future will be. They want you to be something special, like a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah, that's true.
No, it's another story about it. We've been seeing this theme lately of insane people just going out and doing incredible things,
right.
And it all works out to, like, even though they're insane, it all works out for some good, and that's him. You got to be crazy in this town. I mean, he's insane enough to say, I'm going to go in and take on whatever mob that's here, the crooked cops, and every rapist, robber, pedophile, and whatever's breaking the law in between. And Rutger Hauer is, I thought, you know what? He's amazing in this movie, man.
He is.
I have not seen Rutger Hauer before. I haven't seen Rutger Hauer in a long time period.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like Rutger Hauer is like the whole heart and soul of this movie, to where you see other movies like Machete, where the lead in Machete should have been as much of a figure in his own movie as Rutger Hauer was in this, where it's like, you want to see this guy, see how really fucked up he is, to where you want to root for him. You want to root for him throughout the entire movie, and you don't want any other side characters coming in stealing his spotlight.
Well, unlike somebody like Machete, he is a real character.
Yeah.
He's not
he
really
really
posing, looking badass, and mumbling lines. This is a guy that you can actually feel for.
He's what makes this movie stand out from amongst the films that the school of exploitation this comes from, which is very much the trauma school of exploitation, where it's not like Machete or Planet Terror. It's where it just amps the gore and the violence and the nudity up to like 15. Yeah. Just says, fuck it. It doesn't even have to make sense. In fact, if it doesn't make sense, that's better. You know? But Rutger Hauer is that core. You keep going, man, he is so good in this. It's almost like he doesn't even know that this dialogue
which is, the funny thing is that the funny thing is you brought up trauma, and that's honestly throughout watching this entire movie, that's all I thought that this was. I was like, this is basically very much a trauma film with Rutger Hauer in it. That's all it is. And the thing is that it does have it still has the bad acting, just the overacting that you get with trauma films, except with Rutger Hauer there as the center, it balances everything out to where it doesn't get so ridiculous like some of the trauma films that, you really do. I mean, you really do feel for this guy, and you're rooting for him, and it really keeps you in the movie, instead of just the movie being just a all out, gore out, shoot 'em up. That's kind of what I liked about it, which kind of separated a little bit, just a tiny bit, from the trauma films. But that being said, I'm a huge fucking fan of trauma.
Yeah.
And just watching this, I was like, wow, this is like taking me back to the original Toxic Avenger.
Well, and this
film,
is gorier than the original Toxic Avenger. It's not as gory as some of the top trauma, but it's gorier than most of them. This is gory on the level of like Machine Girl at points, where you're like, Jesus Christ, there's just geysers of blood going off every 2 minutes. And gore. It's ridiculous. People stabbing other people with ice skates and decapitation.
You see somebody's arm get broken by a joystick. It's that ridiculous.
and then like just ignore it because they're on drugs,
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, your hero is all but immortal, pretty much, because he's just walking around. Yeah, they'll fuck him up like unbelievable. Like he gets stabbed in the back like 30 times with a guy stomping on him with an ice skate. Yeah. You're like, okay, well, obviously you're dead. But no, he's all right. He'll just get up. He might limp a little.
I mean, they carve him up like a pumpkin. I mean, they do everything except, just cut off his head. And the guy just
let me rest here for a few seconds.
Yeah, he's like indestructible.
Yeah, apparently, if you cut off your head, obviously it's the town of Highland.
Well, I got to give
that's all that can get you.
I got to give the director, his name is Jason Eisner, credit for not only making this a trauma film, but making this a trauma film from the 80s. I mean, this guy has captured all the things from really bad 80s movies, especially trauma films of that type, here in this film. I mean, like even your villains, they're like preppies from the 80s, pop collars and shit. And
you see boom boxes in here that you're just like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, no, there's nothing in here that goes past that era of, mid 80s films like this, action and horror films. And even right down to synthesizer music.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
they do that 80s trick where like every scene is a wash and a bright color. Like they have every room, every scene is tinted heavily in yellows or blues or reds, and the whole movie is oversaturated as hell to give you that 80s look.
Well,
that's to the point making your eyes bleed.
Well, that's what I liked about it too. I was like, wow, this is truly a comic book film. As if this is almost like if Joel Schumacher tried to make up for Batman and Robin. Violent thing that he could, but everything is like all fluorescent. I mean, that's another thing like the 80s, but it's also like a comic book effect too. Everything is washed down fluorescent blues, yellows, pinks, purples, and all that kind of stuff. And it gives this movie like the feel like, okay, don't take this too seriously because it is supposed to be a comic book film. Well, you've been quiet the whole time. What do you think?
Well, you said don't take it too seriously. I thought it was saying like don't take this seriously at all.
Yeah. If you're still taking it seriously after 5 minutes, you better just stop. Press stop.
Well, I'm mostly listening to you guys because I'd never been, I never watched a bunch of those films. I think I saw the Toxic Avenger once on USA Up All Night, and watching this, it's got all those elements. It is fun. It's probably the best that of one of these movies could be. I just happen to be a fan of these type of movies, so it's hard for me to even judge it. I'm like, all right, I see what's fun and how you guys dig it. It's just not my thing.
Right. Just be honest, because I mean, looking at you, honestly, sitting there, I was looking at you, I was looking over at you a lot, just because you had this look on your face, like I couldn't tell if, okay, now this is just way over the top to where I can't even process all this in my head. I mean, you kind of had that look to you, which I don't blame you. If you did feel that way.
Yeah, well, I did. Like, I could enjoy little chunks about it, but just trying to string it all together, it just didn't work for me. But I was like, this is just way, the way my sensibilities are. But it's not like looking at people going like, the fuck is wrong with y'all? How could y'all like something like this?
No, with this type of film, it is one of those films where just my love for the Toxic Avenger, I really don't go running around telling everybody, you have to see this fucking Toxic Avenger film. Only to very specific crazy people that I know, which are like 3 of them. So I mean, it would be hard to like really tell a general audience you have to go see. I would never tell your parents to go see this film.
No,
but
you can't review a film like this in the same context you would review like The Usual Suspects or something like that. It's not the same.
Right.
It's not even. I don't even know if they should both be called films. Really. They're both completely appealing to such different interests. I mean, this is totally prurient. There's no question about it. But in and of itself, with that, for the exploitation stuff, I think this is about as good as this type of thing gets, really. It's like, I get bored with films like Machete because it takes too much time beating around the bush. I'm
too much plot.
Oh, come on, man. Who gives a shit? This plot is dumb. Let's get to the part where cool shit happens.
You're right.
And this is like, it's like 2 minutes tops between people getting killed or sex scenes or like, fuck yeah. And not to mention so many more great lines in here. That
I was,
but just like cheering awesome.
I was like in awe of like a lot of the lines in this film, just where I was like, wow, that is just a great that is a great line. Man, how come I can't think of lines of like that? I mean, as far as simplistic as they are, where they actually like make you look at a character in a way of like, that's what you're all about, dude. You keep doing that, And but with like Machete, what I liked, what usually I have a problem when people try to do these types of films, especially like the best example is Machete, is to where it's like they already have this imagery set up of how I'm supposed to look at this character and how I'm supposed to look at them and say, these guys are cool. They never explain to me why they're cool. Just because a guy dresses up in a certain way, that doesn't make him cool to me. Give me some character. Give me some background story. Give me something to make me just go, man, if I was in this situation like this guy, I would try to, in my wildest fantasies, I would do the exact same thing. You know?
Well, again, they're doing instead of like, you know, I feel like a lot of these movies, and I'm not just going to, like, you know, blame it on Grindhouse and all that kind of stuff, because a lot of people try and do this, but they tried too hard to create icons. They try too hard to create legends. You know, they do. They put them in costumes that are pre-planned. They make them pose and they make them do all this stuff, and it's just like, you know, just let it happen naturally.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I blame a lot of that too. Is like, man, I love to death Evil Dead 2, but just an image of a guy holding a shotgun, wielding a chainsaw. You know, I think in some ways it's impaired a lot of these directors to think I have to have something as iconic as that.
I gotta do that.
But what they don't realize is Evil Dead 2. Basically, you followed that character throughout that entire movie, where you saw all the hell and torment that he went through, which made him become the hero he is now today. And you know, with this movie, it sets it up. Exactly, you have to fucking earn your badassery, and you know they did a great job with Rutger Hauer.
I think the most obvious thing, though, that we're not even saying is that if you're making an exploitation film and you're concerned about not getting NC-17 rating, you've already fucked up.
Exactly.
You've already screwed up because you just can't make a decent exploitation film without getting NC-17 or X.
I think you could.
I don't think you should try. You know, it's like, who are you selling this to anyway? It's not like all those other films that Rodriguez and company have been putting out have been making billions at the bank, and that's because they're for a very niche audience.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know about that, because I think it does not even. Again, I think if somebody's trying to do something that's NC-17 or go over the top and it doesn't feel natural, then they've kind of failed a little bit. I think, you know, if somebody's doing something that's true to heart and they feel like, hey, you know, I'm just going to have fun with this and do whatever I think is cool, and you know, hey, if somebody doesn't like it, then so what? And I think that's what this guy did with this character. He's like, you know, I have a vision in my mind, a hobo with a shotgun. You know, and he's like, I'm going to make a movie about that. Now, having said that, I've seen every Troma film except for like Poultrygeist.
What, you
and
even
maybe
saw
one before
Kabuki Cop?
Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
How could you not go through the Troma library without seeing that?
I'm sorry.
How could you?
I know.
Not see that one, man.
It sounded even too dumb for me.
And the only reason, you know, I tell you what, maybe the reason why I saw that is because that guy Andrew Osborne is a friend of ours. He wrote
He's
it
in the movie.
Yeah,
Did he write it?
He wrote it.
Okay.
Yeah, he wrote that, and so I'm with you though. It's like I've seen almost every Troma film, but I've seen them on video, DVD, and watching them that way is like, I love it because it's bad, and I like watching bad movies at home. Now, watching this film, it's hard for me to tell what's bad on purpose and what is bad because it's just bad. I mean, the acting in this is horrible, and it gets to a point where it's like, I think these are just bad actors. I don't even think that they're trying to like parody anything. And there's a point that the movie does go over the top way too much for me. I'm not even talking about with anything offensive. I'm talking about.
You're talking about with the plague?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, see,
awesome.
I'm glad we got into this point because honestly, the plague for me in this movie was like the ultimate as far as like. Okay, well, the plague is basically when you have your bad guys, you've used all your resources, all your fucking all your goons have been just killed. You got to call the reinforcements. You got to call the top dogs, and that's what the plague is. Where they come from, the world of Eternia, basically, they're Skeletor's henchmen that are basically on Earth, and they go looking for Hobo with the shotgun. Which these guys are dressed up in like ironclad suits. Yeah. I mean, they really do look like Masters of the Universe action figures mixed with if you were to have Masters of the Universe fuck Metalocalypse and like bring those two worlds together. That's what you would have as far as these two guys who are the plague, who've been compared to C-3PO and R2-D2 by the director.
They're dragging around a coffin behind their motorcycle.
They're dragging around. You see them in their like I guess in their Snake Mountain where they're fighting off one of their beasts. Like you just see this beast in the background. They're fighting off this tentacled beast.
There's a wall
for no reason.
They've taken out in history, and it includes Jesus, JFK.
Well, but these guys are ultimate badasses. Well, they'll go in, take care of a situation. They know how to fight. They know how to wield like a fucked up looking machete sword. Yeah. I mean, they're like the ultimate badass.
See, it's basically two guys who they look like they made like really shitty Black Knight costumes. And like they just couldn't get it right before they went to the Renaissance Fair. And everybody's like, hey.
All they had was a welder's out there.
But you know, I'm
it's
not
funny because it's true.
I'm not opposed to those kind of characters. I'm not opposed to a movie going this way over the top. You're right. It gets to a point where you see like they're not just the reinforcements, they are a force from hell that these guys have paid off to come in, and like when all else fails, call demons. And I don't mind that it's over the top that way. It's just that, again, we were talking about this kind of thing with a movie earlier where it detracts from what I want to see. You know, it's like I really want to see this story. I really want to see a story about a badass hobo going in and taking over the town and going against some sort of mob force. And when they brought in this the movie's already cartoonish, but when they came to this point where they went way out there, I was like, this is really taken away from what I thought the heart of this movie was.
I see what you're saying, but isn't there that point where you go, it is already so past reality that to try and rein it in is worse? Just to go past it is where you put the cherry on the cake, and you're like, fuck it. At this point, it should be an alien that comes pick.
Well, that's where the big divide's going to be. Exactly. Where people either going to like dig that or they're not. And I understand because when that's introduced, you're like, okay, now this has gone like it's fucking taking a turn that, you know, it could be for the worse. But for somebody like me, I enjoy it. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people just tune out.
And I'm the same way. I'm like, listen, I know this is going to work for some people. It's just, and this movie was working for me up to the point. There's some things that I didn't like. Like I said, the acting and whatnot. But, you know, when it got there, just like, you know, it's not for me.
Right. Well, the plague, that whole thing, I almost wanted to ask the director, like, you know, is this an idea, at least with these characters from the plague, is this an idea that you had for another movie that you were really worried that, you know, we might not get to make another movie, so let's just throw these guys into the mix? To where honestly, like after seeing The Plague, I mean, I wish that they had their own film. I really do.
I hope there is another one. Yeah. Honestly, I really do too. Speaking of that, and I couldn't help thinking about it because even though it ends the way it does, I'm like, wow, there's still a lot they could do inside this universe. I want to see The Plague return for one thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all aboard. Which is another thing that Machete fucked up.
Yeah.
To where Machete introduces you to these characters who you're like, you know, more characters where they're supposed to be like on a badass level like Machete, and they completely fail.
Yeah,
you know?
No, you're absolutely right. Here they introduce these bizarre but somewhat iconic characters. You're like, okay, I like the idea of them going on and being part of this bigger universe that they've started just to hint at here. And fuck it, if you can get Rutger Hauer back again, I mean, if this makes enough money, you could make, you know, Hobo with a Shotgun 2, Hobo Cop.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, speaking of Rutger Hauer, he said he was great, and he is. I mean, seriously, I almost felt bad for him because I'm like you. I was like, wow, you were throwing your ass into this movie with your acting, and I don't know if you knew how much this movie cost. You know, it looked like I don't know if you got paid enough to act as good as you did in this film. I mean, he really is amazing in this movie. I mean, had it been in a more, I don't know, you know, quote unquote for other people, legit film or more big budget film, I think he would have been receiving more praise and accolades for this. But because of this, people are going to be like, it's that hobo movie.
He was that actor that a lot of these types of films really need sometimes because it does. I mean, it gives some weight to the characters, and you're more invested in a film like this. Because I've always said, like with these films, the problem with the people who are making them, who are fans of these films, make them too corny. Where I'm like, you know, originally those films that you saw, those directors weren't trying to make bad movies, and they weren't trying to pay homage to anything. They were just trying to make a decent movie that they actually like and that they would have an audience for.
We're trying to make an homage to trauma movies.
That was always my problem with the newer type of kitsch or exploitation movies where they're trying to ape those. And it's like, look, the original guys, they had earnest intentions. You know, they just had a lack of money or talent or time, but they did the best they could. Whereas you're trying to do this on purpose.
Yeah, and even though saying that, you know, the director of this film, he probably was he's obviously wearing his influences on his sleeve, but at the same time, he made a very honest movie with that character. He didn't make that character like so ridiculous and cartoonish that
the guy took it seriously. Yeah. And he actually acted instead of like pretending to be a badass or hey, I got to be an action figure one day, so I got to try really hard. But you know, the other guy
best films centering around a badass are because you have an incredibly strong badass character.
Exactly.
Whether it's Shaft or Chuck Turner or whatever it is.
Exactly.
You're like, wow, I like that guy playing the lead. He's awesome to watch.
Well, you know, in addition to Rutger Hauer, there's another guy in here who's way over the top. But I liked him. And that was the guy that played Drake, the head crime boss.
The Drake.
The Drake, yeah. The Drake. You know, a guy, Brian Downey. I think he's a character actor that no one has hardly ever seen. But
if you ever watched the show Lex, which went on for God knows how many more seasons than it should have, he is a character, one of the main characters throughout that show.
Yeah, I mean, the way he talks to his sons, you're a disappointment. You're the one that's going to, like, make it for me. You know, I'm so sorry that you can't be. And it's like, he's saying, he just goes, I mean, he's way over the top. But
he is. He chews scenery, but he does it in a good way.
No, he's so much fun to watch.
He sells it.
Yeah. He's like a
best actor.
He's like a cross between a really fucking evil car salesman / televangelist.
Man, Goes, you all over. You got this analyzed down. Your science is too tight.
I'm sorry.
I like the way Leon has been quiet the whole time. He's like, I can't hang with this. This is ridiculous.
Which, you know, honestly, I'm really. I really love to hear your whole. I mean, maybe someday you and we can go have a beer, and I'd love to hear your whole idea of what you think about like films like this. Because I mean, I find your point of view more interesting, only because you just kind of being like not that into it. With a film like this, I'd be more interested in hearing your idea.
You know,
of it.
one thing I gotta say, like they kind of sabotaged me on this movie because they showed so many trailers before they finally got the movie going.
It was a good half hour.
God, it's fucking midnight. I'm losing energy. But they showed the original trailer. I guess these guys shot for the contest, and that particular hobo with a shotgun. I was almost like, wow. I'd really like to see that movie that doesn't have the sci-fi fantasy element to it. That's just more of an urban, shoot 'em up exploitation movie.
That's exactly what I wanted.
With some, social commentary. I was like, man, I was hoping more for that.
Right.
I mean, that's just that point I realized, very early in the film, within the first 10 or 15 minutes, like, okay, it's not that movie, so I guess I'll just deal with that as it is. But
I thought it was kind of lame. Some of the best lines that we just watched in that trailer that they reuse, like the whole don't worry, he's only killing the crooked cops. We're all crooked cops.
Man, I did enjoy this film, and for people who really remember trauma films or like this exploitation trend that's happening in movies, I don't think it's going to disappoint. And so I don't want to tell people how to approach this film because it's going to be different for everybody. As you can see, there's a multitude of opinions right here. For myself, I think I would enjoy this movie more watching it the way I've seen some of the movies that influenced it, and that's at home on DVD or, hey, take it back old school, watch it on video.
Honestly, I want a copy of this movie on VHS.
I
really do.
Thing. Yeah. I mean, this guy captures it so well to the point where I even criticize him for like capturing the rest of the movies so well in that period of those 80s type films that the opening credits are more like a 70s film. And I was just like, that doesn't fit because you did everything else so good. But I give it a rental, but I give it a very high rental, and I do recommend it higher for anybody else who really loves this type of movie making.
See, it's funny, like your argument that you would have preferred to watch it at home. I'm about to say the exact opposite to people. I think the way to see this is with a theater, with people, with beer, or as many people as you can, because this is that film that is about like the reaction that builds among the crowd and the cheering and the even of throwing things. Fuck it, sorry, it's Rocky Horror Picture Show. People, the Midnight Show. What are you gonna do?
Get thrown out.
Well, I'm just saying it's that type of film, though. It's that type of film, and that's the environment in which it was meant to be seen in. It's a shame this won't get anything wild, even mildly like a wide theatrical release. If you're lucky, you might get an art film theater in your town that'll play it limited. And if you can, go see it. And seriously, to me, and like I said, this is on a scale that is different from a normal movie scale. It's the only way you can judge this type of film. But on an exploitation scale, it's a full price.
Yeah, I have to agree. As much as I want this on VHS, no, it is a midnight film that you go see with a bunch of friends. You get drunk or whatever you do, and you just fucking cheer and laugh, and and if you're into this, if you're even a trauma fan, I mean, this is the movie. After Toxic Avenger 4, this is the movie you've been waiting for. Saying that though, as far as I'll get to my serious critic side. my ridiculous.
Let me start this up.
My ridiculous side that I'm ashamed of. Seeing a movie like this, but also watching what we just saw, Super.
Yeah.
And that was directed by James Gunn, who's like a alumni of the Troma films. Like seeing a level of film that he did. It's almost like it's where a film like this should eventually go to the next level as far as filmmaking, which I appreciate. Saying that though, I mean, I gave Super a full price. As far as
better than sex.
Oh, I give it better than sex. Yeah, that's right. This I would consider at least a full price, only because I mean, I do encourage people to go see this at a full price at midnight, because that's the only way you're fucking paying to see this movie. At a midnight movie is full price. So as much as I want to say that, go see it at full price. If you're a casual movie, if you got to stick up your ass usually about films, then this is just going to be a rental. For
I know, man.
No, sorry, Leon.
If you only met the criteria,
if you're not Leon,
this might not be for you.
Well, even along with the stick up my ass about these type of films, I have to agree with Korey on just about everything he said. It does strike me as like, man, watching this, just like catching it on cable or watch it at home on video seems like that perfect format. Even like down to the VHS. But the thing is, I mean, say I give it a rental, say, hey, it's better that way. These days, everybody's got a 50-inch HD TV, and you can have your friends over with your own beer and pizza and watch and get the full effect of how you want to see it the best way possible.
I would call that a full price rating, though. You're like, if you can afford a 50-inch TV, you're paying full price.
but you probably already have it anyway.
But you're not paying full price for one movie, though.
Yeah.
Unless you're buying it just for that movie.
Yeah.
Unless you're buying just for Hobo with a shotgun.
It's a Hobo with a shotgun edition of television now.
Like I said, it's not my thing, and I don't really like staying up all day and night to see something that's like where I'm like, well, it's not really my kind of movie. And yet I do genuinely appreciate the things about it that are fun to watch. So it's a rental for me.
So your problem was that you stayed up all day. What you got to do, see, is you got to sleep through that day, and then at the night it's just like mid-afternoon.
I see.
See, Leon, I won't torture you like that.
You know what? I totally agree with you guys, because I would see this at midnight with a group of people. My rating is more on judging what my expectations were for the movie. I mean, I really wanted this to be like more, as Leon was saying, an urban kick-ass vigilante movie. I really could not.
Okay.
Which I understand.
This is something I don't understand, because I was very close to just saying like, man, I'm tired, I should go home. But you kept talking about how much you love this movie, which is why the whole reason I was hell-bent on going.
No, I did not.
I could have swore you kept saying how much you saw it at Sundance and you liked it so much. I was like,
I did not.
Wow, man, I can't. It's weird for Korey to steer me into something like that.
I don't know why everybody thought I said that, because I did not say that. Because you on the phone talking to like the rep last night, like, hey, one of our guys loved it. I never came back and said I loved it.
That was the impression I got from what you told me too. Was that I thought it had problems, but I really enjoyed it.
Shit!
Even walking in my car, I was like, that was weird for Korey to do that.
See, now how'd you run from like, hey, I really enjoyed it to like. And I don't even know if I said I really enjoyed it, because I knew you guys were going to see it, so I did refrain from saying a whole lot. But it's like, I said I liked it, and I do like it. But I never came out like, man, Hobo with a shotgun was fucking awesome, man. I never said that.
Well, you didn't say fucking awesome, but you were like, yeah, no, I saw it. It's really good. Y'all are going to like this.
Yeah, we didn't say you said it was fucking awesome.
No.
You know what? I'm going to get a shotgun here in a minute.
I don't get one first, because you motherfuckers don't listen to me.
Do you mind if I go in the kitchen and do a shotgun shot? You guys arguing out here?
Maybe. You ain't not like me.